It's our community. You know, sometimes we have cerebral neighbors, and I have to really break a sweat trying to think about what to say next. Sometimes we have somebody that does something fun, and sometimes we have somebody that does something interesting. Now, Amy Barickman here is our neighbor, and she owns Indygo Junction and the Vintage Workshop. And Amy has written a book that is not only interesting, but Amy, it's fun.
Thank you, Dr.
I loved it. And it is about the domestic arts.
Yes, this book was based on the Women's Institute of Domestic Arts. And actually, the founder of the Institute was originally from Kansas and lived in Kansas City.
Arcadia.
Yes, that's where Mary Brooks Picken was born.
Yes, and I have to read the last paragraph, the dedication, Amy. It says, this book is also dedicated to the new generation of creative spirits. I encourage you to seek knowledge and wisdom that previous generations have to offer. And you know, I think that's nice.
Well, there's such a renewed interest in sewing and the domestic arts, and so it just seemed like perfect timing for this book, and I love the idea that we can look back to look forward. There's such great wisdom and inspiration, and it was fun for me to pull it all together into this book.
Well, I think probably we need to see Mary Brooks Picken.
Yes, she was a beautiful woman.
She is. I can't, here we go.
And I was just so inspired once I learned more about the history behind Mary. She actually wrote the Singer Sewing book, which sold 8 million copies in its entirety.
Did she make a lot of money?
You know, I think she did quite well. Her husband actually was an advertising executive, and after she left the Women's Institute, they went into business and worked with many of the domestic arts companies, Singer, Coates and Clark Thread, and so they were able to build a nice business in Manhattan and do quite well producing creative content that inspired purchases from those companies. So that was fun. I did some research. I traveled to New York and found her home in her original studio.
She moved to New York? She
did, yes.
So the Women's Institute started about 1850?
It started, this was 1916.
I realize, but the sewing machines began.
Yes, exactly. That was a really important Singer, Isaac Singer, and his invention really made the machines affordable for the masses to purchase, and that really turned the corner in the growth in the whole industry of sewing. Well, and it's been fun to research that.
Well, and the machine changed. The sewing machine changed the whole. I don't know what to call it. The culture of turning out clothing, in numbers.
Correct. And what it really provided is for women, it gave them it gave them some freedom, because prior to that, really, they spent day and night sewing clothing for their family by hand. So the machine opened up a new world of, opportunity and creativity too, because they were able to do more things with the machine and more efficiently and quickly.
Well, and then moved into the era of ready-made clothing. I mean, that was,
right.
That was a big, and a lot of people made a lot of money with
right.
that.
Well, I think of Nellie Dawn here in Kansas City too. So yes, there have been, ebbs and flows in the home dressmaking category. And today people really, if they're making things because they want something that's individual and unique. And that's really what we do with Indygo Junction, my company that produces patterns.
Now you have two different companies, so talk about Indygo Junction.
Okay. Indygo Junction is a pattern company, and we design in-house. That's one of our patterns. That's called the Tablet Tote. It's a carrying case for a tablet or iPad. This is
look at this.
The banded beret. We do hats and fashion. In that pattern, you'll notice we have a version that's made of recycled denim and one that's made from recycled menswear.
The one over here.
Right.
Yeah,
so we try to follow the footsteps of the Women's Institute and redo, make do, repurpose. This is a pattern that's a men's dress shirt turned into a child's tunic. And actually, that's my daughter modeling on the cover, by the way.
Well, that's all right.
So
we
it's
use
fun
the whole family.
Right, exactly. When you have a small business, that's
right.
the way it works.
I like these. Now these, yeah, I'll tell you, I don't know what kind of person or people these are for.
Well,
but I have a dog that plays catch with something like this, and he, not this particular one, but he just loves it.
Well, it is a pin cushion, but it could be a little pet toy. In fact, Rosemary, who's here in Kansas City, designed that pattern. So these patterns offer the creative, and we try to keep them simple for people to make. So if you're new to sewing, this is the asymmetrical apron, and this one's based.
Aprons have had a resurgence.
They have. They have. We've done really well with some of our apron patterns. And this one in particular was, sometimes I find a vintage apron at an antique show or a thrift store, and this in particular was a vintage design that we thought was really clever and stylish, and so we kind of reinvent vintage in that way with Indygo Junction.
Well, you know, all of us reinvent ourselves from time to
Yes, that's
time.
That's always what we're doing with this
business. But, you know, I
business.
think to myself, when I drive down 119th Street or I drive up and down McKen, I think in the evening, nobody cooks. And yet, aprons are selling.
Oh, yes.
I think it's so interesting.
Yes. I think, you know, anytime people wear them for fashion today. We have a few aprons that actually are almost like pinafores and just offer a fun, unique design.
I love these.
Well,
this is another Indygo Junction pattern, and this is fabric flowers. Look at this one. Look at these.
Those are actually made from men's ties. And
Really?
that's one of the tailor tie flowers. This book we did, and it uses a lot of different materials. It uses everything from recycled sweaters to cotton fabrics to tools. There's some tools. This is a beautiful, this is a bouquet.
See, you can tell I'm big for flowers.
Yes. Well, everybody loves flowers, so I thought, of course, we should do a fabric flower book.
Well, is this wool stuff that
This is called needle felting. And so what we did on this pattern was to needle felt both sides of a cream wool and then wrap them into the roses. So we've tried to show people different ways to use the flowers too, whether you put them on a purse or maybe,
we did it.
There you go, in your hair or on a belt. Yes, and that's one of the Indygo Junction patterns actually that we embellished with that, and that's a felt. So just a variety of materials and difficulty level. There's simple things just made out of yo-yos.
If you want to put them in a vase, you can do that too.
Well, and I think it's a wonderful idea if you're want to give flowers to a friend. Why not give some fabric flowers that maybe they can use, beyond the life of a fresh flower.
I have an office that I go to. Oh, and you have, by the way, patterns too in the back of this book.
Right.
So you're not. I'm
full-size pattern.
I'm not at sea.
Right. You don't have to guess. It's all there.
But I have two offices, and I like pretty things in my office, and I think these flowers are just the ticket.
Well, I'll have to leave you that book, and you'll have to get out the needle and thread.
And if you find me on my way to the home because it didn't work.
No, our instructions are really great, so you're going to do fine.
Do you get people? This is really kind of interesting because I told you I don't sew, partly because I don't have time, and partly because I don't take the time.
Right.
But do you have people coming in that don't sew that say, I would like to change my way of living
and do more?
Yeah.
Really, we do. We find that sewing is kind of the new knitting. Knitting has taken off in recent years, and sewing has become, whether people are with the invent of Etsy and eBay and many of the women wanting to get into a small business, maybe sewing provides a very not easy, but accessible way that you can make products to sell. Maybe on whatever scale you so choose.
Yeah. But I think people are. I think they're becoming more interested in as we say, the domestic arts.
Right.
I really do. Not so much cooking, but I think sewing.
Well,
people do.
It's exciting because I've been in business for over 20 years. So in the past, my peers had no interest really.
I guess they thought you'd kind of lost a few screws here.
They knew I was one of the only ones that really had an interest in this. And this came through, my mother actually owned a retail fabric store when I was growing up. And it offered me this opportunity to learn about business. But today I have more and more friends saying their daughters want to learn to sew, they want to learn to sew. It's a fun, rewarding activity.
It is, and it's fun to make something that's pretty.
Right, and be able to wear it and say, I made it myself.
I did it.
Yep, exactly.
Well, you know the joke about the guy that went to buy his wife a scarf, and he went in the store, and the lady showed him 2 scarves, and he says, one was $35 and the other one was $150. And he said, I'm not sure what the difference is. And she says, well, one of them's hand-did.
I love it. There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
See, he had to pay for being hand-did.
Extra special.
That's right. That's
handmade gift.
This is an interesting book. This is the 1935 edition of Sewing for Profit. And some of the comments in it are really that says the matter of undergarments is also one in which the dressmaker this is the dressmaker's store we're setting up here, can be of great assistance to her regular customers. Constructive interest in their choice is of real importance and assistance to the dressmaker, for unless the undergarments are correct, the frock or suit worn over them will not present its best appearance.
Yes. Now, I am happy that we don't make our own underwear anymore.
They used to.
But that is, the Women's Institute was a big part of it.
That's right.
Corsets, thank goodness we don't have those either. But that book was a really special book because it was a Mary Brooks Picken Women's Institute book, and I was so inspired that this school encouraged women to step out on their own, build their business. It has instructions on It even has instructions on how to make your business card for your tailor shop. So it's been a fun one.
I don't know. I was looking. I don't know what this sold for. Do you happen to know?
Well, it was part of the Institute's curriculum.
So this was a textbook.
So this was a textbook that when you bought into the program, and the Institute allowed you to pay over time. And then, of course, there were benefits. If you got your friends to join the Institute and start the classwork, you would get discounts and things like that.
You know, actually, they must have had a very healthy enrollment, because this is the this is the 1939 edition. The first one was 35.
300,000
35,
women.
37, and 39. So that
300,000 women went through the course. So it was the largest school for women in history on of domestic arts. So there has never been a larger school dedicated to teaching women domestic arts. Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Scranton.
So,
well, you know, in 35, 37, 39, when these came out, that was after the Depression, and just coming out of the Depression, and women were out making a living before Rosie the Riveter.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the necessity, and many were also just being able to make clothes for children and just improve themselves economically, maybe not in business, but just being able to make more beautiful clothing for their families, and learning cooking. And because the school also taught millinery, cooking, and the tailor and dressmaking course.
This book is just wonderful. You will love it. This is House Dresses. This is the Department of Fashion. And this is all Mary Brooks Pickens things. I mean, this is...
Yes.
Isn't this wonderful?
Yes, and
I love this because my mother always had house dresses. And if you say that to anybody, they think you're off someplace in left field. House dresses. Nobody wears a house dress, but she did. She had house dresses that she wore when she cleaned the house and did her laundry and all that kind of business.
It was very specific.
Yes.
There are patterns specifically for or they call it a house coat, or frocks, and then the pajamas. I love that.
I love this too.
This is one of my favorite images in the book.
Look at this. You will die when you see this. Look at this. I need a pair of these, I need to tell you.
Yes.
These
are loungewear.
Yeah, but where could you wear these? These women look like they're outside. Can you wear them outside?
It was considered the fashion of the day, the pajama mode. So it really became a trend in fashion to have the clothing, and mainly I think it was summer and vacation wear. But
isn't that wonderful?
And the fact that they moved from wearing dresses to actually pants was a big change for women during the period of the Women's Institute.
Well, and your quote is, those of us, this is from the original here, she said, those of us who are going down to the beach this summer may have beach pajamas to match our moods.
Yeah, to match your mood.
Yes.
Sure. Yes.
I love it. I just love it.
And the book's divided into different departments. So there's a department of
Yes.
fashion, department of sewing, and department of inspiration. So there's really nice essays in the book.
Well, these are, what, is this a tea towel?
That was actually an apron.
An apron? I love it.
Yes, and it was Linda Flake, actually, who's here in Kansas City. It's a piece of hers that she let me borrow to scan. And that is a pocket. So the book has a pocket.
The flower's
for
a
each.
pocket?
Yeah, you can reach behind, and that is actually a pocket on the page.
Oh, on the page?
Yes, so you can hide, like if you have a recipe.
Oh my gosh, look at that.
You can hide a recipe or an article or a quote.
How fun.
Yeah.
See, I didn't do that.
And on the left there you see Just Among Ourselves, and that is those are the testimonials from the women who took the course. So you can actually read the words and the joy that these women found and rewards from this course.
This is from a woman in Kansas.
Oh, good.
And she said, when I know I look fairly well, I can accomplish much more and with a much better spirit than otherwise. And last summer, before going to the hospital, I made several dresses, slips, a kimono, and a gown. Shoes, hats, and everything cost less than $25. And I just can't tell you what a comfort and satisfaction they were to me while there. And a person looks unattractive enough at best when ill, but I knew that I looked my best all the time, and it helped me wonderfully.
Isn't that nice?
Isn't that nice? I mean, think about what this woman has done. I guess we need to look at the originals too. This is 50 cents a year. How often was this published? Do you know?
This was published monthly. Inspiration was the way I found the Women's Institute. I was on eBay buying some graphics for the Vintage Workshop, and I fell in love with the graphics, so on eBay I purchased a collection of these newsletters, and then I started reading the articles and fell in love with the stories and the essays, and the material was so timeless. I thought to myself, you know, this is really great information, inspiration. I felt like it needed to be shared.
Well, and here it says,
preserved.
This is the inspiration between you and me, and it says, would you like to know the secret of being really big? Not physically, but mentally. You can learn it if you're willing to carry out the resolutions offered by Dr. Frank Crane. And he says, just for today, I will exercise my soul in 3 ways. To wit, I will do somebody a good turn and not get found out. If anybody knows it, it will not count. I'll do at least 2 things I don't want to do, as William James suggests, just for exercise. I will not show anyone that my feelings are hurt. They may be hurt, but today I will not show it. And after you've tried this plan and learned the secret, put it to use as often as you can.
Just good wisdom, good.
Now, these were written for women who spent most of their time at home.
Yes, but they also did, in the Institute, there were many articles written for the women who worked in the business offices, too. They didn't just...
In these kinds of magazines?
Yes, they did speak to both working women and working women in the home and working women out of the home. So I think, and that's an interesting perspective, but definitely the majority were for women that were working in the home.
See, and I'm sure that here's another one. This is a different one. This is the fashion service, and also put out by the Women's Institute.
Right. So they started with inspiration, and then as they moved into promoting fashion and individual style, they had another series called the Fashion Service. So there are two different publications that I collected, nearly 100 to 150, probably combined. I have.
Was this monthly?
This one came out first. It came out quarterly, seasonally. seasonally. And then eventually it came out monthly, and they combined the two. Inspiration and Fashion Service became Fashion Service. So it's been fun. Whenever I discover a publication I don't own on eBay, it's always like Christmas when I open up the envelope and find out what articles or
and
pictures.
Here's a very modish ensemble for $10.50.
A wonderful, wonderful deal.
Isn't that?
Yes.
And an umbrella, and look at all the neat things. See, this is a little more sophisticated publication than the Inspiration one.
Right, right. It really was focused more on fashion and educating.
Well, there's advertising in here too.
Yes, yes, and that's really how the Institute evolved. Eventually, Mary Brooks Picken left the Institute around 1925, and then that's when she went and began working for some other magazines and for Singer Sewing. And the Institute, upon her departure, really never was the same from what I can understand from the publications. It survived into the late 30s, but she really was a wonderful
When did she leave?
Founder. She left in around 1925.
25.
And this is another beautiful publication.
This is now even more sophisticated is this one.
Right.
This is dress decoration.
An ornament.
Yeah.
And honestly, the cover of that is the inspiration for the cover of the book. If you see the flowers going down the middle of the dress, that is
now we're going to pull this book up
yes.
here if I don't drop everything on the floor.
Yes.
And we will look.
You'll see the cover. And Erin Hill designed this, another local, Kansas Cityan, did a beautiful job working with me to design the cover.
There they are.
And then we went on actually to design a fabric line based on the vintage notions. And the image that's on the booklet, or the, became an image on fabric. We recolored it and modernized it and did a series of fabrics that were called vintage notions.
That had the whole figure, or just the design?
It had the whole figure. Actually, this was a series of 4 different booklets, and we created the fabric using those 4 medallions as the centerpiece, and then a quilt and wall hanging was made from it. So,
see, I just
we've had a lot of fun with the artwork in this.
Oh yeah, and you had to be a little bit artistic to do this kind of stuff, rather than a pure seamstress.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
The design part.
Is this batik? Here's batik over here.
Yes, isn't it? I mean, in the history there, the tie-dye even up in the right corner, but you can see the illustration of the woman with the scarf, and just how that style fashion could be something we found out today.
Well, you I think it's so interesting, and I think none of this is all in the public domain.
Correct.
So Amy has gotten wonderful, look at this coat. Amy has gotten wonderful ideas from things that are in the public domain, and just as her patterns use repurposed clothing, what you do in your 2 stores use repurposed thinking sometimes.
Right. Whether it be imagery or whether it be stories. It's really, that is my passion, is searching out those treasures from the past that are really lost in obscurity unless they're brought and preserved through publication. My blog, I have a blog where I share a lot more of the history that I've found, and it really is a whole lot of fun.
Do you collect buttons?
Oh yes, we love buttons. Oh yes, and in fact, another publication book I've done with Indygo Junction is called Buttonware, and it is using both vintage and modern buttons and creating everything from designs on. We had a Christmas tree made of buttons on a sweatshirt, or earrings, bracelets.
So you and the glue gun are very good friends.
Well, we love the glue gun, but we usually keep it to needle and thread if we can, just for the long haul. Or E6000 is a really great glue if you're using buttons. Yes, but yes.
Here's something. This is Roof Trees Building Soundly.
Yes, another one of the essays. So at the beginning of each chapter, there's an essay that Mary Brooks Picken wrote that I picked my favorites that I found in a book that was called A Thimbleful of Friendliness.
And this is A Thimbleful of Character.
And then I wrote an essay to companion with Mary's. And so on the page before that, you'll find the essay that I wrote. that really gives kind of a modern perspective. It's called Modern Notions.
There it is.
And I do love the graphic there with the cross stitch.
There it is.
Oak leaf and
Isn't that pretty?
acorn.
Did you do that?
I did. That was actually a vintage tablecloth that we took
Really?
the corner of it, and that became part of the graphic. So
Yeah,
my vintage
it's over
textile
here.
collection.
Yeah, it's over here for
Yes.
October, isn't it?
So, and the fabrics on the left
Yeah.
are from my collection, and then there's even a piece of trim that we added. So
I
the
just-
pages are decorated with.
Well, you never know where you're gonna. Where did you find something wonderful?
I have different. I go to the Mission Antique Malls right around the corner.
Yeah.
I love going downtown to River Market, to that antique mall. The Old Summit Antique Show.
But you never know what you're going to find.
Yes, and that's what makes it so much fun.
Well, and the things that you're looking for are a little bit on the different side. You know, a lot of people don't look for that kind of thing. This is October. She does everything by months. Come, little leaves, said the wind one day. Come over the meadows with me and play. Put on your dresses of brown and gold, for summer has gone and the winds blow cold. That's from Inspiration Magazine, 1924.
Just fun little charming quotes. And
How long did it take you to put this together, Amy?
it took several years, about a year and a half from start to finish, and we self-published the book. So please, if you see what you like, you can buy the book.
I bought the book.
From Barnes & Noble.
I did, yes, I
or
did.
Many different outlets.
Do you sell it in the store?
We do. Well, and I don't have retail stores. We sell it on our online stores. Harper's Fabrics locally, Quilt Shop.
This is a
carries
nice
it.
piece of embroidery.
Isn't that beautiful?
It is. What was that? A tea
That
towel
was
or-
actually a dresser scarf, I believe.
dresser scarf.
But you can see on the left the little gal in the hammock. That was a line art design. But then we went in and colorized the vintage line art graphics. And then we looked through the collection of vintage fabrics and found that beautiful print there on the left. So it was the process of, getting a color palette and then expanding from there into the elements that went along with the stories was quite a process. And I had Jean Lowe is another woman here in Kansas City who helped me edit the book and go through that process. She had worked at Andrews McMeel, so she had a good knowledge to do something like this independently, and that was.
And you see, it took you a couple of years to get this together?
From the time we really started collecting for the specific chapters, and it's month by month, so that gave us kind of a framework to work from.
Well, you know, Amy, this has drawn to a close too fast.
Well,
but you really need to get Vintage Notions, and I got this at Barnes & Noble, so I'm sure you can get one as well. And I don't sew, and I thought this was terrific. And as I say, thank you to Amy Barickman and Vintage Notions. I want to read you another year. And this is 1923 from Inspiration. It says, for every winter, there's a spring. Oh, that's the beauty of the thing. For every midnight there's a morn, for every loss a hope is born. For every sultry day the dew, for every old year there's a new. Yes, buds for all the leaves that fall, that's the beauty of it all. New dreams for all the dreams that die, for every night a dawning sky. For every heartache, failure, fear, another chance, another year. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.